Welcome, Bryte Church, to another devotional. Let's open up our Bible to Luke 7. We're going to read 11 through 17. Luke chapter 7, 11 through 17. Soon afterward, he went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a great crowd went with him. As he drew near to the gate of the town, behold, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and a considerable crowd from the town was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said to her, "Do not weep." Then he came up and touched the bier, and the bearers stood still. And he said, "Young man, I say to you, rise." And the dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother. Fear seized them all, and they glorified God, saying, "A great prophet has arisen among us, and God has visited his people." And this report about him spread through the whole of Judea and all of the surrounding country. Let's read a couple more passages. John 11:17. John 11:17. We'll read 17 through 26, and then 43 and 44. John 11:17. Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, but about 2 miles off. And many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?" Verse 43. When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." And one more passage. Let's read Mark chapter 5, verse 21. Mark 5, verse 21. And when Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered about him, and he was beside the sea. Then came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and seeing him, he fell at his feet and implored him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be made well and live." And he went with him. Verse 35. While he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house some who said, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." And he allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. They came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and Jesus saw commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, "Why are you making a commotion and weeping? This child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him, but he put them all outside, and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him, and went in where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talitha cumi," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And immediately the girl got up and began walking, for she was 12 years of age. And they were immediately overcome with amazement. And he strictly charged them that no one should know this, and he told them to give her something to eat. There is a statistic in our society, namely that 10 out of 10 people die. You probably heard about this. Everybody dies, yet Jesus has this amazing ability, the author of life, to give life to the dead. And this has a lot of implication, but the main one is that though we die, we will be resurrected. He is able to do this, and he is willing, and he wants to. Let me read Romans chapter 8, verses 9 through 11. Romans chapter 8, verses 9 through 11. You, however, are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if in fact the Spirit of God dwells in you. Anyone who does not have the Spirit of Christ does not belong to him. But if Christ is in you, although the body is dead because of sin, the Spirit is life because of righteousness. If the Spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Christ Jesus from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his Spirit who dwells in you. Moreover, think about this. Death took a righteous person, something it was not allowed to. By God's law, everybody who sins, every person who has that virus, death can take them. But death took something it was not supposed to, and had to give him up. And also, because of that, because of taking something it was not supposed to, death has been judged, and it will give everybody back. So Jesus has this amazing ability to resurrect, and his Spirit will resurrect your body if you die. You putting your faith in him means that you have a relationship with him, and when that day comes, that Spirit, the power of that Spirit will resurrect your body. Now, there's another passage that I just want to make sure we understand. Everybody is going to be resurrected. When we read Revelations 20, verses 11 through 15, after the millennial reign of Christ, at the great white throne, that judgment is for all of those who were wicked, who did not believe, and they will be judged by their deeds. So today, as you ponder about how amazing Jesus is, think about his ability, the power that he has over death. He can resurrect a dead person. How wonderful, think about this, how wonderful it will be to spend eternity with him in your glorious body. Be blessed.